This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
All right, let's do it. Welcome, everybody, to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show designed to bring you the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace trends that are shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around us. We try to find guests that when we listen to them, they will teach us something that will make each of us a little bit better at whatever it is that we do. And yeah, I'm certain that many of you have had experiences like the one I'm about to share. You've got a friend, you've known him for a long time. He's a colleague, he's a companion. Your children are friends with one another. And a lot of the times that you see each other, you're on the sidelines at a game, or and when you do see them and you're not on the sidelines, you tend to talk about your kids and their sports and their athletics, or each other's hobbies and pursuits, families, things like this. And then one day the conversation kind of drifts into business. And you think you know what your friend does. You've got a sense of it and see signs around town that indicate what their profession may be. But after a short amount of time of talking to your friends, you realize, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea he was as influential in his business. I had no idea that the business has grown so much since he took over or she took over. I had no idea the places that they influence, the places they travel, the people they meet, the people that they help. And you sit there kind of embarrassed that you didn't know the significance and the influence of this individual until you stumbled into a conversation about work. That's what's going to happen today. When we come back from break shortly, we're going to have Buddy Persons in the studio with me. Buddy has been a friend of mine and my brother's for years. And it was, I forget where, but he and I were talking a little bit about his work. And I sat there and went, maybe, am I the only one that did not know how big his business is and how influential it's become? What got me thinking about it, or what kind of took my breath away, was when Buddy was talking about how he was headed down to Florida after the most recent hurricane that struck the west coast of Florida in the Naples area, the Fort Myers, Naples area. And he was part of the disaster recovery unit or whatever it may be with the business that bears his name, Persons Services Corp. And he was going to he was a big part of that environment of trying to get Florida, Southwest Florida, back on its feet. And I thought, maybe you go down and fix a house or two. No, it's huge and comprehensive. And I had no idea the significance of the guy, and began to poke around a little bit. Now, he's a friend of the show. He's been advertising on the show for years, for which we are eternally grateful, but I did not know. Shame on me. So when we come back from break, we're going to have Buddy telling us a little bit more about his business. Folks, you're going to want to hear this stuff. The world that he's seen, his time in Haiti, his time overseas, doing the work that they do, the stories that he tells. And you're going to want to hear this stuff. And I think people in Mobile that may know Buddy are going to go exactly what I did. Really, Buddy? We had no idea. Shame on us. So when we come back from break, my friend, my colleague, my buddy, Buddy Persons, giving you a sense of where the show's going this year. We're going to continue to expand. Perhaps I've mentioned this before, but the goal is to grow, always to grow. And looking at new markets and new products for new markets. It's really exciting, and it's just great to get people reaching out saying, hey, I heard your show. I got an email the other day. Hey, I heard your show. This was from a guy in Birmingham. And I didn't know, I've now bookmarked it on my radio dial. And if I miss it, it's going to be downloaded. It's now going to be one of my regularly consumed podcasts, to which I say, thank you. How generous of you to put me on that list. Speaking of upcoming shows in the future, I'm going to have Eunice Mingo back on the show here in a few weeks. She and I are going to watch the show, the documentary Descendants, not together, but separately, and come together and see what each of us doesn't know about the other's viewing. Descendants, if you don't know, is about the slave ship Clotilda. Eunice is a African-American female. I'm a middle-aged, overweight, thinning-haired white guy, and I have a feeling she and I will see different things in that show, and I want to hear her point of view. It's going to be a vulnerable conversation between the two of us, and working on the show of the winners of the best places to work in Alabama as nominated by Business Alabama magazine, organizing that to see what that award is about, and most importantly, how you win it and what it does for your workplace. So lots of good stuff coming when we get back from break. Buddy Persons and I talking about Persons Services Corp, as well as the other brands that he owns or manages or leads. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be right back.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm in the studio today with my friend Paul F. Persons Jr., better known to me and many of his friends as Buddy Persons. Buddy, I'm going to get into your bio real quick, and then we're going to get into what it is that you do. Buddy is the president of Persons Services Corp and the owner. He's a graduate of Auburn University with a degree in building science from the School of Architecture, Design, and Construction. Also managing director of Persons Development Company, specializes in industrial, commercial warehousing, and office facility leasing. Buddy, you've got your finger in so many pots. You and I have been friends for a while, but when I saw the scope of your bio, I was truly taken aback that this mild-mannered guy is doing so many things. Thank you so much for your time, my friend. Welcome to What's Working.
Thank you.
Talk to me about Persons Services Corp. Talk to me about Persons Development Company, the history of this organization, if you will, and then we'll get into some of the things that I know you do that are pretty dang cool.
Absolutely. Persons Services Corp, originally the business was founded by my father in 1978. He started out as a one-man plumbing operation and with a helper, and so over its evolution from Persons Plumbing to when it changed to Persons Services Corp around 2002.
No kidding, 2002. So it was a plumbing contracting business from 78 to 2002.
The bulk of the history of it was plumbing, starting out in residential plumbing and then to some commercial, and he grew into a few other markets, all centered around the plumbing world. And so I got out of college in 1998 from Auburn, at the end of '98, and went to work for another company. And
it was in Mobile here, wasn't it?
In Mobile,
yeah.
So during that period, I kind of worked all over the world and all over the country in disaster response and some military war support overseas. And with that, we had a lot of success, early doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And during that time, I kind of bought into the family business a little bit while I was doing all of that. And
when you say bought in, you're talking about a financial transaction or emotionally bought in? You're learning the business world and you see the value of a family business.
Saw the value of the family business, also with thinking that I'm going to move in a direction with my own stuff one day. So financially contributing into it, and ultimately just sort of doing some things on the side, if you will, while I was traveling all over the place. And a few of those things started to grow. And eventually the company I was with in 2013, maybe, it sold. And when it sold, I was offered at that time to go with them and to lead the company, but knowing what it was going to take at that time to turn some things around and things that needed to be fixed, and my children were very young, and I chose not to be gone my entire life at that time and fully converted over to the things that we'd been working on in the family business. And
was your dad still there when you converted over?
He was still there.
And was he happy to have you? I can only imagine that the answer is yes. Any father would love to see his son coming into the family business, assuming that son isn't a complete failure and the only thing they can do is hide him in the family business. He had to have seen the success that you've been generating and knew the offer that the other company had given you and wanted you in, I assume.
You know, I had a lot of involvement in up until that time as well. So I even had an office there. And kind of started up some, subdivisions of things that we were doing. So I was involved a lot before then.
So I know that the business, your father's business, when you joined it, Persons Plumbing, do I have that correct?
That's correct.
Was so much smaller than what it is that you've done today. And I want to talk about how you've grown it and the opportunities you've seen. But your bio here, I mean, this is the stuff, buddy, that I didn't know about you. The bio lists that you have held management positions in various countries, such as Haiti, Albania, Honduras, Colombia, Puerto Rico, and others, working with foreign government, U.S. federal government, and the military and its agencies. Let's pick one. I want to hear what this was about. Well, tell me about Haiti. Can you tell me a little bit about what you did in Haiti?
So, there again, my previous employer, a company called DRC here in Mobile, was heavily involved in work throughout the U.S. and abroad. So Haiti was, the earthquake in Haiti was at 2000, maybe 2009 or 10.
Yeah.
So we were in Haiti twice, once to support the construction of the U.S. Embassy there. We built a workforce housing camp for Fluor, the big defense contractor that housed about 400 workers for the construction of that embassy. So we had a pretty long run in Haiti before the earthquake. Then the earthquake hit, and we responded with doing all types of support. But our first contract was through another defense contractor, and we were involved in removing the bodies, the U.S. citizen bodies, people from all over the country. That was our first major task order down there.
So when you were down there, it was pretty Spartan. I guess that's not the right word. It had been beaten up. The country, you were in the rubble of the earthquake doing that type of thing. For how long?
The company was there for, I would say our presence in Haiti was from 2004 to 2014, maybe. I was not there the entire time, but
yeah.
The earthquake was one of the worst disasters that I'd ever seen, and
yeah.
I've been to quite a few. The understanding that Haiti is one of the poorest places in the Western Hemisphere, and seeing it was pretty shocking, and they certainly needed all the help they can get. And still a tough place down there. I keep up with it a little bit. And
I watch it a little bit in the news too, and they've had another minor earthquake recently compared to the previous one. But your living environment, that's what I'm kind of curious about. When you were down there for so long, where and how did you live?
There's certain places to stay, and there are versions of hotels and other homes and whatnot to stay at. So, but it certainly was tough. We had sold the U.S. Embassy camp literally months before the earthquake hit, which turned out to be an unfortunate sale at that time. We could have used it, but
did you have security around you all the time?
We had security for the most part, and some people would keep security with them a lot. But I'm somebody that doesn't. Sometimes I don't like the attention when that happens. When I worked in Albania and Kosovo, when I first got out of college, well, I had an armed guard with me a lot of the times, and I was running the accounting for our operation there, and we were doing work for NATO and the U.S. Army and different stuff. And I can remember carrying the government had just paid us a couple $100,000, and I had a lot of cash with me, and I was bringing it to the bank of U.S. Bank of Albania, American Bank of Albania, something like that, and had a machine gun guard walking with me. And here I am, 24, 25 years old, or 24, and I thought, this is a way to bring attention to you. This isn't a way to be incognito.
Right.
So I got rid of that guard with me, and I just would walk different routes back. But typically, I'm not that nervous, to be honest with you. I feel more nervous in America in a lot of places than I do there.
Yeah. Well, I once was paid in cash in Argentina for a speech I gave, and I turned around and there was just a crowd of people watching them count this money out in front of me. And I'm going, all right, this is not a good idea. Can you wire this to me? And they said, sure. We just thought you wanted to pay paid on spot. I said, it would be nice, but I don't think I'll make it out of this building the way these people are looking at me, stuff like that. But it's a heck of a story. Now, you were down in south of Tampa this past summer doing something similar, disaster recovery work for your business, correct?
Certainly. Can we step back to that,
sure.
to Albania? Because this was one of the first projects that I was involved in out of college and overseas, and I think we built a lay-down yard and a helicopter pad for was it for the Air Force or the Army, and they were working out of a base. So I had to go on the base to get paid. It was a small job. It was like a $48,000 job. And I go on base, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but when the U.S. military mobilizes in places, they pay their contractors and a lot of people in cash. So there was Black Hawk helicopters flying in millions of dollars a day to keep the operations going.
Wow.
So we go in, present the invoice, and I'm in there meeting the sergeant or the contracting officer, and he starts just putting down the money, the $48,000 in cash, and I was blown away. I thought I was coming there to get some type of check.
Right.
And I didn't really know what to do, and I had a really big wallet, so I just matted all the money in the wallet and tried to fold it over and stuck it in my pocket. And when I was leaving the base there that we're operating out of, it was another checkpoint, and when I pulled it out, that Army guard was like, hold on, stop. And he was all nervous, and he had, has a machine gun and everything. And I was like, here's my invoice. I just got paid. I don't know what to do with the money, so I just stuck it in my wallet.
That's awesome. When we come back from break, I want to hear, because when you and I were last talking, we were at lunch, and you were trying to find a helicopter because you needed a helicopter to help out Sanibel down in Florida. And it just sounds like this gunslinger cowboy environment when you go into these disaster recovery places, these handshake agreements done on the street out in front of a building that's just been destroyed, and you've got a team of people eager to swoop in there. It just sounds like the Wild West of business world, and I want to hear that story when we come back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm in the studio today. Buddy Persons is sitting across from me. He's the president. He's the managing director of Persons Services Corp, as well as Persons Development Company. Lots of fingers and lots of pots, a man with many hats. We'll be right back. Do you have an industrial or commercial construction project you're ready to make a reality? Persons Services Corp is a diverse specialty contractor capable of tackling complex projects. They've won awards from Engineering News Record and the Association of General Contractors. If you're looking for a turnkey project management solution, advanced technologies, and skilled personnel you can trust, look no further than Persons Services Corp. Find out more at personsservices.com. Sitting in the studio today, sitting with Buddy Persons, the president, managing director of Persons Services Corp, as well as Persons Development Company. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Buddy, prior to the break, we were talking a little bit about the work that you did in South Florida recently, on the west coast of South Florida. And you were hurrying down there to get to Sanibel because the destruction there. You were talking with business owners their buildings had been blasted by the hurricane that had just rolled through. What was its name? Do you remember the hurricane's name? I forget him.
Hurricane Ian.
Ian had just blown through, and you were on your way to get some work done there. Tell me about that aspect of your business. Now, the disaster recovery, you told me a little bit about Haiti and the not hurricane, but earthquake world. Tell me what it was like down in South Florida, what you were trying to do for the building owners and people like that. What was that like?
So in our disaster group for Persons Services Corp, we do a lot of work for the government rebuilding homes after disasters. So that could be everything from renovating homes to building new homes to replacing mobile homes. We work in certain programs with FEMA and HUD, and a lot of that happens many months after the disaster. So going back 3 or 4 years, we started to get on the response side a little heavier. So the response side is coming in immediately after the disaster, helping mitigate the damage, restoration, drying, temporary repairs to protect buildings, homes, or any other structures. So that's a very fast-paced, hurry up, get there.
Because every day the building is wet, the building owner is increasing their risk, right, with mold and mildew and stuff like that. And the quicker he can get the wet, damaged material out, he or she, the better off they are, right?
Absolutely. It is very much needed quickly. It does more damage, the water damage, than anything else. And if it sits, it literally ruins houses and buildings. So there's a big need, and there's a reason why you see so much equipment and people and manpower going to these storms. So that's why it's an emergency response business. And so we mobilized after that storm and went down there with really no contracts in hand. And so you call it the Wild Wild West. It certainly is. It's a business not for the faint of hearted, for sure. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of team and
a lot of risk, a lot of sleepless nights. Where do you find the people? You certainly don't have. I don't think you have several hundred people that are on your payroll waiting for the next disaster to hit so they can all go pull sheetrock out of homes. Where do you find them?
Certainly, great point. Our company, we're about a 200 employee company, and so we have decent management infrastructure, and because we work in a lot of scopes in construction, we have decent access to employment and adding on and growing an operation somewhere. So along with years in the business, knowing the right teams and the partners to come on board, along with we have an office in Fort Lauderdale as well, and we work in we have an office in St. Croix and St. Thomas as well, doing a recovery program there for after many hurricanes that's battered there. So we've got a lot of fingers out there in the business, and a lot of people also are attracted to those areas when a storm hits because they know there's going to be work there. So bringing in the manpower, very challenging. But something that's a routine part of that business. But it's never easy. But you can run up to several hundred to several thousand. Depends on we're nowhere near any of the biggest players in those business. But there's some companies that will crew up thousands of people there in the first couple months.
So the hurricane arrived last summer. Are you done with your work down there, or is it going to keep going for another couple of years in cleanup, in rebuilding homes, in additions or renovations to homes?
We are still working. We actually opened an office there in Fort Myers. We believe we will be there for, 5 to 10 years, depending on some of the way the programs come out. So like I mentioned earlier, some of the CDGB-DR programs.
Wait, that's a big O acronym. That's not a normal one. Usually there's TLAs and FLAs, 3-letter acronyms and 4-letter acronyms. That was like 6. What is that?
So those are the Community Development Block Grants Disaster, which comes under HUD and FEMA after the disasters for specific money, like I was mentioning with the homes and the rebuild. So depending on that program and the applicants and the approvals on it, what gets appropriated, that those are typically about 3 years worth of work, and they start about a year after the storm. Mm-hmm. So if I calculate that with our current private work, we at least got a year's worth of private work. And typically that will grow as you get to the next building and the next building, and they discover all the issues, settle on the scopes, decide what they're going to do. And I've never seen this much property damage before.
No kidding. Even Haiti?
Let's
step back. You said Haiti was huge.
In the United States.
Okay, very
good. I have
good.
never seen this much private property damage. And a lot of it's because that's a community that's been there for a long time, from Naples and Fort Myers and all the way up. It's a long stretch with a lot of multifamily condominiums, a lot of homes that were built a long time ago. So they aren't to the current codes and zoning, and they sustained a lot of damage. So I don't know the numbers, but it'd be one of the largest from that perspective disasters.
Yeah. And so you got a lot of work left. Are you approved? Do you have to get approved to do business in Florida, approved to do these contracts from the federal government? It would seem like the way you rush to Florida, and it could happen in Georgia, the Carolinas, wherever the next big hurricane comes, you would need to be on their books beforehand so that you can get there quickly. And they can say, yes, he's approved vendor. We trust him to, if he says he's going to do this, he's going to do this, versus some guy who claims he's a roofer and never shows up. You read these stories post disasters of the roofers or whoever it may be that are a fly-by-night bunch and make promises door to door but never do the work. So tell me about is there a process like that?
We could have 2 more podcasts on that subject, but in short, on the government side of the fence, a lot of states will do pre-event contracts for logistics, emergency response, temporary housing, ice, water, things of that nature, as well as each local community will put out their own contracts, local governments for debris cleanup and removal and processing and things of that nature. The private market, no. You need to be certified in the sense that you need to be a licensed contractor with the state, and have the appropriate business license and stuff. But on the government side, there's pre-event contracts, in-place contracts. On the private side, there's a little bit of that, but not as much. So for legitimate contractors, you can go and find work in these areas if you're, willing to go and fight the war a little bit.
Do the Wild Wild West stuff on the street corner, shaking hands with the building owner saying, yeah, that's my building. How quickly can you get all the sheetrock out? And you say, we'll have it all out in a week. It'll be on a pile in the parking lot. And they say how much it's going to cost. And you make a number up based on, square footage of the building and things like that, I would assume. And they say, go. Is that about it?
It's a pretty good analogy for some of them. And there's all types of disaster work and response work, but it quickly turns into regular construction. So, at the end of the day, we're a general contractor, so it rolls right into the reconstruction, which is what we do every day on a lot of stuff.
So I want to get into the other stuff that you do. But so are you suggesting that this disaster recovery work, such as in South Florida, is a lead generator?
Well, when you think about volume of work and, where opportunities are, you're in any given community, anytime there's a certain amount of bids that are coming out, there's a certain amount of new developments and construction. Well, you got supply and demand. So an area gets hit, instead of there just being regular 2 or 3, 4 or 5 construction jobs going on, now there's 500. So when the supply increases, it's an opportunity to pick up work that you may not have had in your local community or wherever you work. So the opportunities are vast in the sense that there's just a lot more of them to be able to compete for.
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes there's a lot of misconceptions about that, that there's a lot of bad apples in the disaster response business, and it's people taking advantage of people and all that. It's really no different than just regular society. There's a certain percentage of bad apples in anything you do.
Yep.
We don't see a whole lot of that, but it certainly happens, and it shows up because it gets picked up right on the face of the newspaper.
The newspaper, that's right. Little old lady said I paid them $6,000 to come replace my roof and was going to pay them another $6,000 when they were done, and they never showed up, and I can't find them anymore, and that's what makes the headlines.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Buddy Persons is sitting in front of me. After break, buddy, I want to ask you what a typical day looks like. I want to hear about the favorite part of your business. I want to hear when you thought this plumbing company your father began could be exploded 100-fold. When did you see the vision that what it's become today? I want to hear about the growth when we get back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston, sitting with my buddy Persons, President and Managing Director of Persons Services Corp, as well as Persons Development Company. Hands, as I said before, hands in a lot of pots with a lot of things going on, and truly a remarkable story of success. We'll be right back.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm Agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm Agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. Buddy Person sitting across from me. He is the president of Persons Services Corp. He's the managing director of Persons Development Company. He's taken a business that his dad began in the year 1978, Persons Plumbing, and has developed it into this extraordinary thing that is that's active all over the country, certainly here in the Southeast. And I can say, as a friend of mine, he's a nice guy to boot. Buddy, when you took over your dad's company or stepped in, when did the vision of what this company could be begin to take hold in you?
You know, it kind of happened organically. There wasn't some master plan, but as I was working in both multiple businesses, we started adding a few more scopes here and a few more scopes there. Always loved the disaster business, so a lot of things kept trending back that way, and we just were putting our toes in that water a little bit. You know, then we started building some of our own buildings on the development side, and that led into doing more general construction. The plumbing business brought us a little bit deeper into the heavy underground utility business, and then some in the site work business.
Let's stop there. There's a couple of areas that I don't know much about. The heavy underground utility business.
So our companies broke up into 4 groups. We call it the construction group, which is regular general construction, our industrial mechanical, which is industrial work that includes plumbing, piping, fabricating. We have our own fabrication facility, welding, pipe welding, things that you think of in industrial plants. We're heavily involved with Airbus and a lot of the other local industrials. And then third, our disaster group. And our fourth is infrastructure group, which is underground, what you think of as water, sewer, water transmission pipelines, site work. And that's run out of our Houston office primarily. So those are our 4 business groups.
And do you have, is it safe to say that disaster recovery is where your heart is, because that's kind of where you began your own career?
I would think probably has a special place in my heart, and it's a lot of fun. I'm somebody that likes to get excited and go tackle a challenge, and that does excite me now. But I'm also just as committed to being a great parent and father, and so that's a struggle when you have fun doing what you're doing at work, and then also love your children and being involved with everything they do. So we all have that struggle.
Listen, my man, we're going to talk about you as a father here when we wrap up, before we wrap up. But I don't think you need to worry about anything there based on what I've seen and heard of you as a friend of yours for years. But these 4 businesses, which has the most potential for the next level of growth, whatever that may be?
Fortunately, we have seen a lot of growth in all 4. Certainly disaster can shoot up tremendously depending on the amount of disasters that are active. It can also be dead. I've been in the business for periods of time where people were looking around for revenue, and it can be feast or famine.
Yeah, I imagine.
It seems these days that there's always something going on, but
how far will you travel for that disaster stuff? If there's an earthquake out on the West Coast, could you take care of that? Could you be involved in that?
We'll look at anything in the U.S. and in the Caribbean, especially now that we have a presence and an office in the Virgin Islands. We bid a job for the State Department in Ecuador this summer, so I was in Ecuador for a week. We just got notice the other day that it's put on hold, but we'll go anything mainly in the U.S., Caribbean, and then some in South and Central America if it's the right project. So.
Yeah. Okay, so which of these has the greatest potential for growth? Feast or famine in the disaster recovery? I get that. But what is the one as you look out on the nation's future? So I'm going to hypothesize here. Here's Cam Marston hypothesizing. The President Biden infrastructure plan that, regardless of whether you think of the man or not, that was a big bill with a lot of money attached to it. That would seem to bode well for someone like you in your water treatment, your water, the underground stuff that you just mentioned. Am I tying 2 strings together? Am I accurate?
Absolutely. So our Houston office, Houston in general and Texas in general, perpetual growth, and it's very busy. We have a very, very big upside to growth there. Combine that with the infrastructure bill and other grants that are flowing through there, and just the private market, we should probably see massive growth there. Our general construction business has quadrupled in the last 4 years as well. But we all know, everybody watches the economy there, that the private market can slow down and that can flatten. But we're heavily involved in the government, world and a lot of these things. So that ends up smoothing out the revenue stream at the end of the day, because by the time a lot of this stuff gets through, it's years after a disaster. So if you're consistent in it, then you can stay busy. So look, I've always been somebody that chases everything because I'm scared. Good Lord, if we run out of revenue, what are we going to do? So I've tried to focus that and channel it, and that's why we sort of settled on these 4 business groups. And now I'm really focusing on professionalizing the internal infrastructure and becoming a perpetuating business. I mean, that's what, at the end of the day, the goal is to become a perpetuating business that people want to go to work for, and that's going to last long after me. A place where, you can come to work there, sweeping the warehouse, but you could become the president one day. We want it to be that type of culture, environment, and a type of company. What one title, person, profession, expertise are you lacking the most? If you said we could hire blank number of these people right now and put them to work, engineers, drafting people, forklift operator, what are the jobs that you're desperate to fill right now? I would think most skilled labor positions in general. There's been a massive gap in our lifetime of training for these skilled trades. The companies that have taken that in-house and just taken it on themselves have, just become multi-billion-dollar companies because they do that. So everything from pipe welders to plumbers to construction business in general, when it comes to superintendents, lots of training, lots of things that can be done. So we're committing to being a real leader in that, to try to bring and grow talent and teach people that where the gaps may have been in our education part of that world.
Forgive the question. Is your father still around?
He is. He's there. He is. He comes in every day. He still has his office up front, and I love it because he gets to come in, and nowadays it's kind of funny. It's like, son, what you need me to do today? So it's the way I wanted it. I wanted him to be able to come and hang out and have fun, and he's like, I'm not going to go at home. Everybody I know that goes home, they just die real quick. So he goes, I'm going to work every day.
So what do you think his take on all this is, buddy?
It's funny. I mean, he's, he loves it. He likes people. So there's lots of people for him to talk to and go see now. And
what I'm talking about is his plumbing company has now turned into this. I have no idea what your revenue numbers are. Is none of my business, but it's just exploded. Does he look at you and say, dang? Does he look at you and say, it should have been a $2 billion company business by now, buddy, so get your tail back to work? What do you think he's thinking?
No, Dad's a very, very humble person, and he does not say any of that on the upside. In some senses, he does it, he'll be say, hey, I'm really proud of you. This is nice. This is neat around here. But he just looks at it sort of as exciting, and gets to look and say, hey, I started this thing here and look what it's grown into. Yeah. So you can tell the excitement, but he doesn't get into that part too much. He doesn't. One day he did joke with me and said, son, you didn't, this is years ago, he's like, he goes, y'all are having those meetings in there and this and that, and I wasn't invited. And I said, Dad, is there a sign on the door that says you can't come in here and participate? But I go, you don't want to sit through a 3-hour estimating meeting. And he goes, oh, no, I don't want to do that.
So a little bit real quick on you. I know you coach your kids. You have coached your kids. They're budding athletes. It's 7 a.m. Now, let's say it's 9 a.m. Saturday morning, any typical given Saturday morning. What are you doing?
Saturday mornings, well, our kids are getting old enough now to where it's not as much Saturday sports as it used to be. But, I still have middle schoolers as well. And sometimes we have some sports. But I typically get up and ride my bike and maybe ride downtown and have a cup of coffee and ride around and look at real estate and go back. And then I spend the day with the kids. So,
what are y'all doing, you and the kids?
Last Saturday, we actually went to, I think we did have a sporting event in the morning, had a tournament over the bay. And then we came back and went and rode off-road in South Alabama with bikes. And I spend a lot of time with them because sometimes I am out of town during the week a little bit. And so I spend a lot of time with them. And during the week, I'm here 70% of the time. I take them to school every morning, and it all works out great.
It's a great story, buddy, of your working in the family business, the way you got started, jumping into the family business after getting started the way you did, and the growth that happens. It's a treat to know you, and it's a treat to sit by you in environments like this and hear what's happened. It's really a remarkable tale. Congratulations.
Thank you, Cam.
I really mean that. It's really phenomenal. Buddy Persons is the president and CEO of Persons Services Corp. He's the managing partner and managing director of Persons Development Company. A great guy, big company. Buddy, what's your website real quick?
PersonsServicesCorp.com.
PersonsServicesCorp.com if you want to check them out. Thanks, buddy. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be back after this break with segment 5. Persons Services Corp is a diverse specialty contractor that's changing how people think about general contractors. Persons Services Corp has experts in industrial and general construction, disaster recovery, infrastructure, and mechanical. They offer the latest in industry technology, turnkey project management services, and custom project solutions. Persons Services Corp has 5 offices across the Southeast to meet you anywhere your project demands. Find them at personsservices.com.
Hi, this is Tony McCarron. When I'm not out recruiting the best and the brightest that the city of Mobile has to offer, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now back to the show.
Buddy's a calm guy. He's unflappable, it seems to me. He's perfect in those environments of those Wild Wild West street scene shootouts in front of the building, you know, the picture that we tried to build of what that may be. Buddy seems perfect for that environment because he's cool and he's calm and he's level-headed. And in watching him in the studio, you can tell he considers his words carefully and he does not bid or commit to things that he doesn't think he can both solve as well as solve profitably. And I can see why he's successful in those environments. I can see why he is a strong leader in his organization. One of the things that I forget the business book's name, maybe it's Good to Great or something like that. You know, it's the reverse. It was the second edition of Good to Great, where the author, I think it was Jim Collins, talked about the most successful leaders that he had studied were not the big charismatic, flamboyant types. They were measured. They were calm. They were extraordinarily predictable to their teams and to their customers as well. And that's definitely the impression one gets of Buddy. As I said in the opening, I had no clue the scope of Buddy's business and how he's grown it as tremendously as he has. I know his daddy's proud. I sure am. Glad to know him and really tip my hat to you, Buddy. Congratulations, my friend, on what you've done. You're a mild-mannered man who has done some remarkably significant things. Well, as we look forward, folks, it's still early in the year. Look forward. It's time to get you on the social media pages. Keep the show in front of you. We will have some new advertisers to announce very soon, which is really exciting. The goal of the show, I know I've mentioned this before, is to continue to expand in Alabama as well as East and West, push into the adjacent states, maybe grab some territory in Mississippi and Georgia, maybe reach all the way over to New Orleans at some point. That would be nice as we continue to grow the show and continue to get accolades for the success of the show. If you want to find us, here's a couple of things to do. First, find the podcast at whatsworkingcam.com, whatsworkingcam.com. And, it's you go to cammarston.com. And here's something I've been admonished for just recently, and I'm going to try to change this. You go to cammarston.com and you're going to see the core business. For the past 20 some odd years, I've led seminars, workshops, keynote presentations focusing on trends shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace. And if you or your team are looking for some sort of insight into the marketplace or the people around you, if you're looking for insight into recruiting, sales, and retention trends internal to your workplace, go to cammarston.com and check out the videos of my presentations. I've done, I don't know how many, but 20 some odd years we're done. There have been years that was upwards of 80 and going to do not that many this year. Don't want to live that way. But check out cammarston.com. I travel all over to give these things, continue to get great reviews. It's a lot of fun. I really love doing these presentations, and the show is now seeding the content for these presentations. You got an annual meeting. You got a team meeting. Take a look and let us talk to you about what we can do for you. That'll wrap us up. Show is produced by John Thompson with Eye on Digital. Have a good week, everybody.